With Fatalis coming to Iceborne, fans are trying to prepare as best they can, but there is one obstacle that players have to get past to access him, and that's Alatreon. That's right, to access Fatalis you have to beat Alatreon first, and for many players who struggle to even get past it, this can be very discouraging. But not to worry, today I have some solutions that'll help you get access to Fatalis without too much grinding. I am Reaver from the Deviant 4, and this is how to beat Alatreon on a budget. Now before we get started, I want to mention that the tips I share are budget builds and not meta builds. This is specifically for players who really want to get to Fatalis but are short on resources, decorations, or even just time. People who don't have time to grind Safi Jiva or Master Rank Kulf Taroth. Now I will say it is a good idea to take time to grind such things. In fact, it's optimal and you'll have an easier time. But if you are someone who really wants to get to Fatalis and doesn't want to do the extra grind, this video is for you. Again, this is for players who just got past Iceborne's final boss and want to get their hands dirty. The sets I made in this video have been tested as well, and for those who are wondering, we'll be ignoring the Safi and Kulf equipment for the purpose of the video. Also, this will be for the special assignment, not the event quests. One last thing before we start, I want to give a big shout out to Hellbentius who made a video about budget building for Alatreon. I looked at that video and saw no comments despite the effort he put in. And he makes great content too, so I highly recommend going over and checking out his channel, and tell him I sent you. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. So to start off, what exactly do I mean by budget in this video? What I refer to is if the players are in one of three scenarios. Scenario number 1, they have some time that they can spend grinding but not much. Scenario number 2, they want to hunt Alatreon but don't want to spend the time grinding in the Guiding Lands and don't have much decorations. And scenario number 3, they rush the game with little to no grinding and only have the decorations that they received up to post-game. Now of course there could be more scenarios, but you get the idea. However, there's still going to be a little bit of grind involved, but enough that should help with Alatreon. But before I go over the budget sets, we first have to mention how you even get to Alatreon in the first place. To gain access to Alatreon, you have to beat the Iceborne story, which unlocks the Guiding Lands. Then you'll have a special assignment quest called Across the Lost Path, which lets you hunt a Stygian Sinogre. That then unlocks the recon for Safi Jiva. After you finish that, you get access to Alatreon. Now most of you already know how hard Alatreon is to fight, so I'll just cut to the chase from here and show the sets. The first set we'll be taking a look at is what I call the part-time grind set. This is the scenario where the player hasn't played in a while and is decently far enough in the game to justify spending a little bit of time getting this build. I do know that Paradise from Eric's Gaming covered this set, but this is probably the best I'd recommend if you're planning on facing Alatreon without too much grind. It gives true critical element, which increases elemental damage with critical hits. Now that being said, this set will take some time to get. The easiest way to get this is to either max out your Coral region or your Volcano region in the Guiding Lands. From there you have to get Silver Rathalos to spawn, which takes some time. As for the Greaves, you need to fight Yangaruga. The fastest way to access Yangaruga is by doing an event quest, but if by chance you don't have that, you have to max out your Forest region in the Guiding Lands as much as you can to get the assignment. I just now realized you can hunt Silver Rathalos in an event quest as well. However, that'll require you to be MR 70, at least I think. And of course, once you have the set, here's what I did for decorations. Now, you do not have to have these exact decorations. These are what I picked based on this particular scenario. This is if you've grinded a good bit from either the Greatest Jagrist quest or the Wrath of the Thunderlord quest. You can build around this however you want, this is just how I've set it. Oh, and the Frostfang weapons are very good, so I'd recommend getting those as they're not difficult to grind. All you need to do is to hit MR24 and access the last White Knight quest for Frostfang Barioth. This is the run I did with this set. I should mention at the time of this recording that the Evening Star quest wasn't available to me, so I had to play with people online. I was using the Savage Axe playstyle, which is probably the best way to go about this with Chargeblade. If you're using any other weapon type, you'll want to build around it accordingly. Now let's say you don't want to grind in the Guiding Lands and only want to use a set that you can get fairly fast. This next budget set we'll look at for that is what I call the mid-grind set. This build is based on if the player is willing to at least prepare properly without killing more time than necessary. This set comes with both Critical Element and Master's Touch, which helps with sharpness. Now, Critical Draw is just a byproduct of the set in case you guys are wondering. Although if you ran something like Greatsword, you can swap out the Teostra pieces for some of the Volcana armor for Frostcraft if you plan on the crit draw playstyle. As for decorations, I tried to replicate the mid-grind scenario with the jewels that this particular player would have if the time was spent efficiently in the grinding process. For example, if you did Greatest Jagras but didn't do Wrath of the Thunderlords. But there is also mining in the Guiding Lands that you can do for some silver tickets. But as we mentioned, this player wouldn't want to grind in the Guiding Lands. And that's if he can avoid it, of course. But other than some of those options, some of the level 4 jewels can be obtained from random quests you do, so that's what I kinda tried to simulate here. Now, as for the specialized tools, the player could either spend some time getting the upgraded versions of Rocksteady and Temporal Mantles, or they could get the base versions and work with those. And this is the run I did. Once again, I used the Savage Axe playstyle here, as Master's Touch works perfectly with it. Although, like I said before, if you're using Greatsword with the Crit Draw playstyle, you'll want to change the set a bit. And again, I did this online due to the lack of the Evening Star quest at the time of recording. Now, let's say you don't have the time to make a set like this. Let's say you've rushed the game and don't want to spend the time at all getting the necessary mantles, decorations, charms, or even Frostfang weapons because you may not like Frostfang because of how hard he hits sometimes. This rather cheap set is really not recommended, but this is the cheapest set I could make. It has critical element and super recovery for some survivability, and either a Biototus weapon or Legiana weapon like shown here. Now keep in mind that each weapon type is going to have either or, and the Stun 3 charm is because, again, based on if the person has rushed the game. Now, as far as decorations go, this is give or take on what kind of jewels you got along the way. Now, if you have rushed the game, it's likely that you won't have resistor jewels, because without them, taking on Alatreon will be a nightmare. You can melt Vitality jewels pretty easily to get level 3 health boost. And as for mantles, you'd either use Vitality and Gilly, or swap Gilly with a health booster. This is assuming you didn't get any other mantles. Now, if you're gonna use this set at all, I recommend bringing a friend with you. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier. Except with a team of 4 people, especially randoms. But I don't recommend trying this solo, as using a set that you rush trying to build will make it really hard to not only meet the DPS check, but also break the horns as well. Like I said, I don't recommend this set, but if you're in a hurry to get to Fatalis, this is an option. Not your best bet necessarily, but an option. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you find this helpful, and let me know in the comments if you guys might have any ideas for any other budget builds for Alatreon. And with that, be kind to one another, and have a most wonderful day.